Art Allen here. Welcome in, everybody. Thanks for watching and listening. We're talking more Walker Independence on the CW. We recently had Katie Finley on, and now we get to talk to the star, Katherine McNamara. Thank you for your time today. It's a pleasure to meet you.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for having me.
Yes, well, this is such a great show. We had a fun time, uh, and I've really been enjoying this. You've been a part of a lot of really great projects all over the spectrum, but this one is markedly different. I'm very curious, what initially interested you in Walker and made you decide you wanted to commit your time to it as an actor and as a storyteller?
Well, I've always wanted to do a period piece and really find I love sets and stories that allow you to fully immerse yourself into them. And this is definitely one between the wardrobe and the costumes and the environment in and of itself is such a departure from our daily lives that it provides a lot of learning experience and a lot of fun. But also, I think this story and these characters are not what they seem on the surface. And especially with Abigail, you get to see a woman who has arguably one of the biggest tragedies that can happen to a person happen to her in the first 10 minutes of our show. And then we get to see a woman who doesn't crumble under that pressure and that tragedy. She rises from it and is able to create a life for herself, which is something we don't often get to see women from the 1870s do.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I like about it is that you sort of take the trope of Westerns and that sort of thing and flip it on its head, so to speak, and really give the viewers something different. And that was one of the things that Katie and I were talking about was that you do get a different perspective, if that makes sense, which I think makes it even much better. I mean, it's already good, but when you can just add layers to it, I think that helps, as being a storyteller and an actor for sure.
Oh, absolutely. And given the characters that we have in the story, we have an opportunity to shed light on perspectives in the West that existed, but don't always get light shed on them in the traditional storytelling sense, or at least what we've seen from Westerns traditionally up until this point.
Yeah, that's one of the other things that I like about it is the fact that you are addressing different types of subject matter than what viewers might be used to, which I think makes it for good entertainment. You know what I mean? Because it's one thing to watch something and go, okay, we've kind of seen this before, but it's still good. But then to watch something like Walker and go, I've never seen this before. I can imagine that the responses so far have just been fantastic.
Oh, well, thank you. I mean, it's so wonderful to get to dive in and get to see the fan reactions to it, especially because it is a franchise that has such a legacy that stands up, through several generations at this point. But to get to see folks of all audiences and generations being excited about the story and excited about a new kind of Western. Hopefully we're bringing energy to the genre that's different while still paying homage to the grand scope and the nostalgia that people love about Westerns.
Yeah. So when you're putting together a show like this, what are the conversations like? How much involvement do you have? Because I mean, again, as I mentioned, you've been a part of a lot of great projects
Thank
and
you.
we'll get to that. But as far as this goes, do you get an opportunity to sit down as a cast and kind of decide where the stories are going to go? Or is that all
Oh,
kind of just, you're like, I wish we did. Well, I don't know. Every show's
I wish we
different.
did. I wish
Yeah.
we did. I mean, look, as a cast, I think we're all such big fans of each other and big fans of each other's characters that we have different, canons and side stories and different plot lines that we make up while we're on set. And we would like to see different combinations of characters and how things would play out. And what if the story went this way? What if we were able to do that? What if this person was really afraid of the dark and this person, you know, collect random objects or whatever it is, or this person is afraid of this X, Y, and Z, and or these people become friends, or whatever it ends up being. We make up stories in our heads all the time, but the writers ultimately decide what's going to happen, and we have very little say. But hopefully, folks will still enjoy the story all the same.
Yeah, I think they do. I mean, the responses I was watching and reading have been very positive, especially as you said early on, when you're taking on a franchise that people are so familiar with and going in a different direction
Mm.
with the storytelling. Well, I'm very curious because, as I said earlier, you've done so many great things. Where did the journey begin for you as a storyteller and as an actor? Like, where was that first interest at when you decided this was something that you wanted to do and pursue as a career?
Well, it's interesting. When I was a kid, I wanted to be an economist. I'm a huge math nerd, and when I learned about economics and how, these large global trends and human behaviors of the world can be explained by math, essentially, it blew my mind. And that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to go into developmental economics and see how, you could make the world work and make the world a better place, essentially in that way. But ultimately my life took a different path.
Yeah,
I was a
clearly.
dancer. Yeah, I was a dancer as a kid, and I still went to school for business and economics. That's what my degree is in, from university. But it's I was a dancer, and I tried something new for the summer and did a theater show for a family friend who needed somebody to, dance on stage. And I went, sure, why not? I'll try something new. And from the moment I stepped on stage on opening night, it hit me like a brick wall. And I just knew that I was put on this earth to tell stories. And that's all I want to do for the rest of my life is create characters and tell stories and be a part of this community, whether that's on stage, in film, in television, or any other iteration.
Yeah, I mean, that is a big jump, but I always find what you do so interesting because oftentimes some actors get their start in different ways, or you come from a completely different career altogether. You go
Yeah.
to college for one thing. So when you're making that first move to LA and you're having conversations with family, I'm always curious like what that looks like because some parents are like, hey, go for it, we wish you all the best, and others are like, well, you have a degree as an economist. That's a
Yeah.
steady career. Don't you
Yeah.
don't want to waste that. And not that you've wasted, you know what I mean?
Right. No, I know exactly what you mean. And in fact, I've actually used my degree arguably more than I would have because now I can manage my career like a business and I can
Yeah.
truly separate, the creative side from the business perspective and the financial management side of things. And, just making sure that, yeah, I can read my own contracts, which has become instrumental over the years. My attorney doesn't always love that I have 17,000 questions, but, they actually take the time to talk to me about things, which I think is really wonderful. But it's something that when my whole family's in science and medicine, and when I was the economist, I already thought I was the a bit of the black sheep of the family, and then I decided to go into entertainment, and that was an entirely other world. But when I first started, I was still a kid and I was still in school and I was just doing theater, and I had this thought in my head that I'd go work at whatever financial institution until 5 p.m. and then go to the theater and be there by curtain. And it was perfect.
Yeah.
Then I booked a Broadway show and moved to New York. And my whole life changed. I thought I'd spend 6 months in New York doing this Broadway show and then move back home. And after about a week of living in New York, I determined that that was not the case. I never wanted to leave New York. I love that city so much. And I loved the world of Broadway and getting to do live theater every night. And then I booked a job in Los Angeles and moved from there. My whole career, my whole life in a lot of ways has been a series of saying yes to opportunities that come my way and taking a chance on things and seeing where it takes me and knowing that, I can always go back or reroute or figure something else out. But if you don't try, if you don't dip your toe in the water, if you don't take that leap of faith, you never know what can happen.
Yeah, and here you are. I mean, the filmography is massive. One last question. Out of all the things that you've done, I mean, I understand the industry can be prickly and there's always just that slight uncertainty. But was there one I've done this a lot and I was the veil was pulled from my eyes early on. I used to ask the question a different way, but now I ask, what project solidified you in the business and made you decide that you knew this was meant for you? If there was one particular project or perhaps maybe stepping stones along the way that has continually solidified that this is your calling, so to speak, as an actor.
I think it's been several stages. As anything with life, we sort of learn as we go where we are meant to be and what we're supposed to be doing in this world.
Yeah.
And hopefully we figure it out. Maybe we don't. Maybe that's part of the fun. I don't know. For me, I think, the first thing that really solidified my love of storytelling was the Kansas City theater community.
Yeah.
I was a kid who didn't know what I was doing, and there's such an amazing community of professionals there that create stories for the love of it, and there's no ego involved, and everybody works so hard. And I learned my work ethic and my collaboration and everything from that community. And then going to New York, I discovered that also existed elsewhere, and that, if you find really amazing people to work with, you can find those communities, and you can find that same passion and that same love and that same work ethic wherever you go. And moving through, when I got to Shadowhunters, I started paying more attention to directors and
Yeah.
learning about that aspect. And we had an amazing crew that would take the time to explain technical sides of things to us as well, and directors that would take the time to answer 19-year-old Catherine's questions about why this shot, or what you're doing, or what it is to be a director even for television,
Yeah.
and sort of inspire that side of things as well. And now, having gotten to shadow a few directors on Arrow and speak to more folks as I've worked throughout the industry, it's really only solidified that I don't think I'll ever stop creating characters and telling stories on stage or in front of the camera or whatever that might be. I would very much like to move behind the camera as well, and use a different set of paintbrushes, as it were, to do the exact same thing.
Yeah. Well, I was born and raised in Kansas, Wichita. So I have,
What?
yeah,
What a
I was a
small world.
part of, I know, I was going to ask you, and I did a show one summer after high school at the Starlight Theater in Kansas City, Missouri.
Yeah.
That's the first time I saw, before Broadway, I saw a chorus line back in the late 90s. The thing that mystified me about theater and just made me fall in love with it is how the cast was working in and out of the audience. And the casting director in that show is in the audience, and it's all played so well. Well, this is fantastic. I highly encourage people to watch Walker Independence on the CW. Check out Katherine and all the other great work, Shadowhunters, Arrow. I mean, the filmography is massive. Thank you so
Oh, thank
much. I
you.
appreciate your time.
Thank you. It's been such a pleasure.
Thank you.